Hello and welcome back to coverage of the Ohio Valley MTG Invitational brought to you by Apex Gaming. I'm Tandy.
And I'm Ross Merriam.
Today we have been watching a ton of really cool games of Magic. We've been getting great decks on stream for you to watch, and also 4-color mid-range piles at the end of the round, every round, the go to time.
That is what they do. And now we are seeing the players. I can peer out our window to see them sitting down in the feature match area, getting ready for round 3. So we are moments away from getting that in. As a reminder, we are playing 6 rounds of Swiss today. It was a 60-person tournament by invitation only. All the players here, did it either by accumulating points over the course of the feeder tournaments or making the finals of one of those events held in various local stores around this area. So really cool event to see, this community really growing and producing some high-quality Magic.
Yeah, and we've been getting to know a lot of these players over the last 24 hours since Ross and I arrived yesterday afternoon, and honestly this is one of the warmest welcomes I've ever had at a store that I've never been to before. Kyle and Taryn, the two owners here at Apex, have made us feel very welcome, so shout out to y'all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Taryn is also functioning as our wonderful director for today.
Making sure that everything runs smoothly. He's giving me a thumbs up. All right. Players are sitting down here. We have actually a pretty juicy matchup. Ross, you want to tell us about the one deck that we're spotlighting here today?
Yeah, we're going to be watching a Tron deck, but this is not your grandfather's Tron deck. They're going off with Golos and Chromatic Orrery.
That is exciting. Chromatic Orrery is one that I haven't actually seen too much in play before, but powerful artifact that generates a ton of different Wooburg color mana and allows you to activate Golos and do some really powerful stuff in the later turns.
And can we pull that card up actually real quick? Let's see let the folks at home check out what it does.
Yeah. Players here are looking at their opening hands, and when they start, we will jump down to that match. But first, let's take a look at the Orrery. I want to see exactly what it does so we can make sure that we don't mess anything up. So you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. 7-mana artifact, taps as 5 colorless, but again, you can use it as Wooburg. And then 5 tap, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. I imagine it's more about just generating the 5 mana and being able to play anything you want, basically.
Yeah. You essentially get to go off with Golos.
Yeah. All right, both players here looks like they're taking a mulligan. Bulliard is on Golgari Yawgmoth. Littman is the combo Tron, as we're calling it. Probably has some really degenerate stuff to be doing with that Orrery. I can't imagine you're playing it just to tap for 5.
No. Really, and there's also Cascading Cataracts here to find with Golos to set that up. This is sort of Golos Tron.
Yeah. All right, looks good.
Makes sense to me.
Filigree Sage is another card that lets you essentially gain infinite mana. I guess that's the combo with the Karn. You find Orrery, you find Filigree Sage, you generate infinite mana. So
there you go.
Cool stuff going on from Littman. Looks like Bulliard has kept a 5-card hand, has put 2 back, and we are ready to go here for round number 3.
Yeah. There is 1 Chromatic Orrery in the main, and then Filigree Sages and a 2nd Orrery in the sideboard to wish for with Karn the Great Creator. So Baby Karn also doing a lot of work in this deck list, setting up the combo while also just being a good piece of value.
Yep. Urzalan from Littman follows that up with a Chromatic Star. Bulliard going to play 1 drop of his own. That's going to be an Essence Warden, the color shifted version of Soul Warden that came out of, I want to say, Planar Chaos.
Yep. So that's a singleton here in the Yawgmoth deck, and that helps you fully go off with your combo. Yep. So when you're using Yawgmoth and 2 Undying creatures to keep looping them, you gain a life each time they come back, and that offsets the life you have to pay for the Yawgmoth, and you can just draw your entire deck.
Really powerful singleton that you can tutor for via Court of Calling or something else.
And normally I would say in a matchup like Tron, a card like Essence Warden, just gaining a little bit of life, horrible. But being the card that supercharges your combo, this is a matchup where you really need to go off. You can't just outvalue the Tron deck because they're going to do something super powerful, especially this version of Tron that has a combo of its own. Yeah,
here we go. Littman fires off the Chromatic Star, finds Sylvan Scrying, casts it, 2 Tron lands in play, finds the 3rd one. Gonna have 7 mana next turn. Let's see if it's something powerful to pay off coming.
Based on the length of the words and the art, I'm going to guess it's a Tower in Hand and Power Plant and Mine on the battlefield.
Yeah, the first one's definitely a Mine because that's the shortest word.
Yep.
The second one is definitely Power Plant because it's the longest. Strength guys from Bullyard are going to come in for 3, but you have to imagine this Tron deck going to easily overpower these middling early game creatures. The beatdown plan from Yawgmoth is not exactly strong, especially in the face of stuff like Oblivion Stone, Karn, Ugin. These payoffs from Tron are always so powerful.
It looks like we got a baby Karn in hand and a Relic. Relic can be reasonable against the Undying creatures if you have removal, but that's not really how Tron goes.
Yep. 7 mana available. Karn the Great Creator can come down minus and play a 3-drop. You often see stuff like 1 Ensnaring Bridge or other artifacts you can cast once you hit that 7 mana that potentially do something devastating to the board. Could also just set it for next turn. Has an Oblivion Stone at the ready as well.
Oblivion Stone only okay. Bridge doesn't really stop their combo.
Yep.
So I'm not sure what the card you're going to want to get here. Is there a Grafdigger's Cage? That would be a nice one. That stops the Undying.
We'll take a look at the graveyard real quick, and Ross will let you know what the define's probably going to be.
No Grafdigger's Cage. It's not really a great card in the current metagame, even if it would be good here. I see Pithing. You could get a Pithing Needle and just put that on Karn, or on Yawgmoth.
Right.
Getting it with the Karn. So that's a good option. We could get it Chromatic Orrery since we can cast it.
Yeah. Decides to go for the Golos. Maybe digging for another land here. Maybe just wants to ramp up the mana. Going to use that Urza's Tower to play Relic of Progenitus and a Warping Whale. That's going to exile the Strangleroot Geist because it's power or toughness on the Warping Whale.
Yep.
And the Relic of Progenitus is going to sit in play and threaten to break up a future Yawgmoth combo.
Warping Well on Strangleroot Geist is devastating because it also means there's not a lot of pressure on the Karn.
Right. Gonna need another Strangleroot Geist here to take it down. Looks like a handful of Birds of Paradise, Grist, a land, and an unknown.
So Grist can -2 with the Warden to take out the Karn if you wanted to do that, but then you don't have the Warden to set up your combo.
Well, I think that's what they're going to go for because they are going to play this Grist here off the fetch, and sacrificing the Essence Warden to kill the Karn seems like the play.
Yeah, Karn super threatening.
Goes and gets Forest, thinking about maybe getting Overgrown Tomb. Perhaps the unknown card in hand was a black source, so the double black is needed to actually play the Yawgmoth if it is drawn.
Yeah,
Life total also not under much duress from the Tron deck, so
yeah, that seems like a small misstep there.
maybe, but if he has a second black source in hand, it's probably not that big a deal.
That's fine. There's a Birds of Paradise in hand, but that could get swept away.
All right, Chris comes in. Counts as a creature, I believe, for Essence Warden, so should gain a life, but I'm not 100%.
No, once it enters, it's a Planeswalker.
You're right. Everywhere that's not in play counts as a creature. All right, so sacrificing the Essence Warden, killing the Karn. Living gonna untap with a grip. Has Golos at the ready. Could play that and search for another land. A lot of utility lands in this deck. Could go get any number of them. Maybe a Blast Zone. Maybe
Cascading Cataracts, so we can start activating the Golos.
Yeah, sounds like a plan to me. Golos, such a powerful card. Banned the commander for being too powerful as your commander.
I do see, I think what I see is Sylvan Scrying, so we could get a forest here, get a green source, then use the Scrying to get the Cataracts.
Yep.
But instead going for a big ol' Karn.
Yeah, this is a Daddy Karn.
Yeah.
Gonna +4 and exile a card from hand. Bullyard down to just 1 in hand. Birds of Paradise gets exiled.
The Grist's not threatening when there's only 1 counter on it. That said, if there's a second Grist in hand, the first Grist can make a creature sacrifice to it. So could get punished by a second Grist here with the +4.
I like the plus. You're just looking for ways to keep it, nice and tight, and maybe hitting a black source was actually the play, right? Taking out the Blooming Marsh could have been brutal.
Well, now that you see that there's no land there, but now you got to deal with the Grist, right? Or you're going to lose it.
Well, maybe decides to do something different here. Is gonna plus the Karn, get
is that a Quarter Calling?
Yeah, it looks like alternate art Quarter Calling. I see the 3 green. Gonna play a Golos Tireless Pilgrim. Now, even if the Grist sacrifices, the board is clear. Golos is gonna go get Cascading Cataract, so you have to deal with the Golos and the Karn. So I actually kind of like going ++, eliminating cards from hand, making Bullyard's life that much more miserable.
Yeah, just restricting resources, and the Yawgmoth deck does need a lot of stuff to go off. A lot of creatures to use Cord. You need multiple creatures in play to make Yawgmoth effective, so definitely smart to just try to limit their resources. Because if you stop them from assembling their synergies, pound for pound, the Tron deck is going to stomp.
Absolutely. It's interesting to see how much the Tron decks have morphed over the years. You know, like they started off back Charles Gindy playing the Gruul version with main deck Pyroclasm and Grove of the Burn Willows.
Have to be able to kill Geist the same draft.
Yeah, and then eventually Joe Lissette playing Golgari versions so they could play Collective Brutality, and then Mono Green kind of floating to the top. And here we see a Mono Green version, but with a combo element to it thanks to Golos and Cascading Cataract. So I call this like 5-colored Tron. A little bit 5-colored Tron.
There we see a second, third, and fourth Blacksaurus in Urborg. So Yawgmoth no longer difficult to cast.
Yeah, so Grizz is going to trade here with the token and kill the Karn Liberated.
But the Golos still threatening. So Matthew probably just praying that the Golos doesn't flip over the goods.
Yeah, but this is a weird scenario because even if the Golos hit something off the top, Lippman just has another Karn Liberated in hand, I think. So looks like he's going to just flip it, though, and gain as much value from the Golos as he can before it dies. Karn the Great Creator going to come in. Angel Stirring's going to be able to be played as well. Just too much advantage for Lippman, and Bolyar's going to pack it in.
Yeah, that was a beating there. Tron on the play, completely uninhibited. Just got to do its thing. Sideboarding wise, let's check out these lists. I imagine a Tron deck with Baby Karn. Not a whole lot going on in the sideboard.
Yeah, just mostly tutor targets, but potentially some sort of like disenchant or anti-graveyard stuff could come in.
There's only one piece of graveyard hate here, so you probably want to leave it to wish for it because you're more likely to draw Karn. There is another Warping Whale. That's not one you can wish for, and we saw it do some good work. It can exile mana creatures. It can exile sometimes tagging the Undying creature. So that other copy of Warping Whale will probably come in, I would say. Yeah,
decks that play stuff like Birds of Paradise, and specifically in this matchup too, even having the ability to exile the Strangleroot Geist can really take the wind out of the sails of a Yawgmoth player. You know, like those Undying creatures are the lifeblood of the Yawgmoth. So.
Yeah, and then on our Yawgmoth side, let me try to find their list.
Yeah, we're doing this via phone, so give us a minute on that. While Ross is looking up the list, I just want to take a second and thank our sponsors here. We have 3 great sponsors for the Ohio Valley MTG Invitational, hosted by Apex Gaming. First and foremost, we have luxuryplaystyle.com. You can check them out. They have great precious metal tokens. They have a cool treasure token that I'm really fond of. They're starting to make creature tokens too. They're these thin, really high quality metal tokens that you can use in your commander games. You know, if you have anything that generates tokens, you can do it in style. Also, shout out to Wings Etc. Grill and Pub. We were there last night and had a good dinner, and I'm probably going to eat there tonight too, and probably tomorrow. There's not a whole lot to eat around here in Caldwell. And then last but not least, thanks again to G Fuel Energy Formula. Thanks again to our sponsors. We really appreciate y'all. It helps us bring y'all all this coverage.
I am seeing some Force of Vigors, an Outland Liberator, some Necromenches, 4 Thoughtseizes. I like the Thoughtseizes. Not sold on the rest. Like Necromancer, you got like one of their threats, but you're not sure. Like,
I'm not going to do Necromancer. Yeah. You know, unless you're naming it specifically Karn the Great Creator, you're just going to get pounded by Karn Liberated and Wormcoil Engine and all these other big baddies.
Do you want the Disenchants? Like maybe that you need them to help break up the combo?
I think the Disenchants are okay. Force of Vigor seems like it could come in. Thoughtseize seems like it could come in. I might be looking to get out some random tutor targets. I don't think the Soul Warden is particularly great here. We saw in that game. I mean, I just want to be clear. The Yawgmoth player last game did mulligan to 5. So it was a pretty light resource game. You saw them kind of struggle on things like Court of Calling. Couldn't really do them for very high amounts because it just didn't have a raw number of food. Plus, the small amount of interaction in the Warping Whale shrunk it down as well. So...
yeah, so I think we're just going to see some discard, maybe a little bit of disenchant action to get some disruption from the Yawgmoth side. Because it's not, when I generally think of matchups for Tron, I like being on the combo side. But Yawgmoth is a slower combo. It's a slower, more resilient combo that has a backup plan. It's meant to be matching up against decks with lots of interaction, but that's not what the Tron deck is doing. It's just going way over the top. So when kind of flips the matchup on its head there.
When we first talked about the matchup, we were trying to spotlight this combo Karn or combo Tron deck, right? I wanted to see just what it could do with the filigree sages, with the Ori, and it ended up just doing normal Tron things, but now with Golos. And I think Golos is actually a pretty sweet addition to the deck, not only for a main deck way to just like tutor up your Tron lands when you're getting a little unlucky with your early tutor stuff, but once you have Tron online, being able to go get Cascading Cataracts just allows it to be a draw engine in a deck with so much mana generation. Having a draw engine is really powerful. All right, both players here look like they're finished sideboarding. They're shuffling up here for game number 2. Golgari Yawgmoth going to be on the play. One streamer that I actually really like watching is Demonic Tutors. Demonic Tutors plays a lot of Modern, plays a lot of Golgari Yawgmoth. Really fun to watch. The deck is powerful, albeit fairly one-dimensional.
I don't know if I would say one. You got that sort of backup beatdown plan. I've seen that work.
Yeah,
in certain matchups.
Sure.
You know, especially with the Grist. I think Grist was the key to unlocking some versatility there, because it not only gives you a stream of threats for things like Cord or, you know, just to get those last few points of damage through, also lets you interact with key blockers. So, you know, a lot of the time your Strangler Geist are going to get just trumped by something like a Ledger Shredder. With 4 copies of Grist, as most lists play these days, usually 3 or 4, when, you know, you used to only see 1, maybe 2, really amps up that aspect of the deck, in addition to just being a super powerful card.
Yeah, Grist is okay in the matchup. Normally you want Grist against creature decks, so you can trade some of those early Birds of Paradise and things like that for their Murktide Regents and things. But here we saw it take care of Planeswalkers, and I think that that's a pretty big deal too.
Yeah, definitely important in this matchup to give you a little bit of interaction with the key threats out of the Tron deck, most of which are Planeswalkers.
All right, well, we're underway here for game number 2. Boliard leads off with a Birds of Paradise. Littman matches with a turn 1 Urzaland and Chromatic Star. Boliard on the turn 2 goes and fetches with a Verdant Catacombs, likely going to get something like Overgrown Tomb. This deck is only 2 colors, no splashes.
This was a 7-card keep from Jonah Littman, and when I play against Tron and my opponent keeps 7, I'm usually assuming that they have kept a hand they shouldn't have, but in a tournament like this, that's not the assumption I would make. So I would just be miffed inside that my Tron opponent has mulliganed less than I have.
That's fair.
That should never happen.
That's true. Well, I'll say this. I'm much more afraid of a Tron 6-card hand, because when they keep 6, you know that you're in trouble. When they keep 7, it could be a coin flip. Maybe they keep a bad one. There's no way a 6-card hand they keep is ever bad. Because if they were willing to mold a 6, they're way willing to mold a 5 and 4 to find those Tron pieces. We know how important it is to find them.
Yeah, and we know that Tron, you know, can aggressively mulligan and still function quite well.
All right.
A pretty nice start here from Boliard with a bunch of mana. That speed is super important in this matchup, and they could potentially set up a big Yawgmoth turn before Jonah Littman even gets off the ground.
Yep, and here we have Boliard going turn 2, Wall of Roots, using the mana immediately. Going to use that to play Outland Liberator, the 2/2 werewolf. This is going to make it so that Day and Night is currently under functionality, and we're going to see if Littman can actually play a spell or if the Outland Liberator is going to trigger. Because once it triggers, it gets a bit bigger, can actually put a little more pressure on. Sylvan's Scrying going to be cast. It's going to keep it from flipping.
And that is a Sylvan's Scrying that sets up a turn 3 Tron.
Yeah.
Once again, finding the tower as the missing piece.
Well, we'll see if Boliard can actually do something before the Tron comes down and is devastating. Looks like Eldritch Evolution in hand, maybe some combo pieces.
So Eldritch Evolution can turn that Liberator into a Yawgmoth. That's good.
Yep.
I like that. But I don't see any black cards in hand, so no Thoughtseizes. Players are talking about something.
Yep, not really sure. I think just cutting and things of that nature. But, you know.
It's indeed daytime. I don't think we're going to get the sunset for another 5-6 hours or so.
Yeah, and luckily next year they're going to cancel daylight savings time, so it's going to be a lot more daylight while I'm awake at least.
And what we need is permanent daylight savings time.
I think that's where we're going to go to next year, I believe.
I like daylight savings time hours.
Yeah. All right, well, it looks like we have a Necromancer being cast from Boliard. Curious what he's going to name. We'll get confirmation from the judge in just a moment, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out based on what he picks through the deck and finds. My guess, Karn the Great Creator, but if he does name Karn the Great Creator and hits him from hand, what that's going to end up doing. Oh, you can name lands. You can name non-basic lands. He's going to hit the Urza's Tower that he knows about. That's going to keep Littman from ever being able to assemble Tron. What a huge turning point in the game.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the ones that was choose a non-land card name, but it's anything but a basic land. That makes it much better in the matchup.
Yeah, pretty strong. This feels bad. Now, a 2/2 zombie is going to come down, but that's nothing compared to A, stripping a land out of the hand, and B, making sure that Tron is never assembled for the rest of the game. You have to be feeling good if you're on Bulliard's side with this Golgar Yawgmoth deck, and now it's just about, can you end the game before Tron hits natural 7 mana and starts casting these huge threats?
And if you look at Littman's hand, I'd feel pretty confident from Bulliard's seat. There's no more lands there. There's another Urza land. Okay.
Actually, that's a Rogue's Passage, I believe.
I think that's just another mine.
It looks like a Rogue's Passage.
It does look like a Rogue's
But that's probably just mine. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I saw the opening, the door opening. That's like the key artwork on Rogue's Passage, and I cannot tell what cards are what anymore because everything has 7 different artworks.
Yeah.
That was always a problem with Tron, but now with everything else, it's even worse.
Even though I'm not familiar with these artworks of Tron lands, it's pretty easy to tell which one is which. The tower is very towery.
Sure.
The miney is very miney.
Yeah, we also have high quality cameras here, so the feed coming through is really nice, so we can read all the cards even though they're small print.
So just one more land in Littman's hand, and this is not a deck that plays a lot of total lands.
Yep. Let's see if Bulliard has any follow-up here. Has access to the wall roots, can still play a land drop. Activates for green, plays Ignoble Hierarch. Is it ignoble or ignoble?
Ignoble.
Ignoble. Wasn't sure if the G was silent.
And now the Ignoble Exalted lets our Outland Liberator get in through the zombie token.
Yep. Good call. Looks like Littman was thinking about blocking and ends up not blocking because of the Exalted. Draw for turn, looks like a forest. I don't think Littman has a ton to do. Has Warping Well, can use that to exile Ignoble Hierarch. Needs to main phase it to make sure that the Liberator doesn't transform. The backside, not particularly devastating on that card like some of the werewolves on occasion, but still more powerful.
I don't know if that Necromancer came off the top from Bulliard, but if it didn't, I really like the play of holding it for a turn. When your opponent leads on star, they're likely going to scrying, and you're going to exile the lands regardless with the way the card works, but getting a land out of their hand I think is super valuable because you really want to stop them making land drops once you take away the potential of Tron. And I'd much rather take an extra land out of their hand and give them a 2/2 than do neither. So definitely great timing on that, casting the Necromancer at the last possible moment with the most possible information so that it can have the best possible effect.
All right, looks like the Warping Well took care of wall roots, but now back to Bulliard's turn. An attack for 3 with Outland Liberator, and he goes for an Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing Birds of Paradise. So gonna go get a 3-drop, maybe Dross Messenger.
Yeah, I think this, or
put some more pressure.
Potentially Grist.
Yeah, Grist here, potentially powerful, making some tokens, but also the ultimate is potentially threatening. The capability to just continue to apply pressure is nice. I love Grist, man. It's so cool. Being able to use these creature tutors to go get it just makes it so consistent.
And Bulliard also knows that there's a card in the Great Creator in Littman's hand, and the Grist covers that card.
Right.
And that's like the one threatening card here on a low land count that you might be a little worried about.
Now, there is still a 2/2 zombie hanging out on Littman's side of things. That's that green token you see. We don't have the proper token for it, but just know that that is a 2/2 zombie that can block. Some zombie tokens cannot block, but this one can.
Now, Littman could hold off on this card until he finds a 5th land and immediately wish for a Pithing Needle for the Grist, but doesn't have that 5th land in hand right now, so it would be hoping for a pretty unlikely top deck with the low land count in these Tron decks. I think they're usually around 19, and there's 4 in the exile zone and 4 on the battlefield.
Yeah. Does have the 4th land naturally, though. That's a Sanctum of Ugin, I believe. So later in the game, if a 7-drop is cast, we can pop it and go get a big colorless card to potentially have a nice follow-up. Maybe a Worm Quill, maybe Golos, something like that. Littman here going to look through the sideboard, checking out options for Karn. Has a plan. Going to go ahead and play the Karn. Probably going to minus. Let's see what he goes and gets.
Littman actually on an 18 land count. So
nice.
10 left in the deck here. Yeah, going for a Golos. Now trying to hit the 5th land and using Golos to get close to these big boom booms
in
his hand. And Golos will also play some defense.
Yep. But the Grist can take care of both. So even though if it goes and gets Cascading Cataracts, the Grist can just minus kill the card in the Great Crater and then minus and kill the follow-up Golos on the following turn. And that's assuming that Littman even has the 5th mana source already rolled up for it.
Yeah. So,
which I think he does with that Urza's Land we knew about from earlier.
Sure. Okay. So looks like Bulliard has another Eldritch Evolution in hand. But with no Undying, so there's no real reason to get a Yawgmoth here. You can't do a whole lot with it, though. You know, Grist and Yawgmoth that's a nice combo.
Yep. I like attacking with Allen Liberator into the Karn. That allows the zombie to potentially chump block to save it. But if they don't want to lose the zombie, then, you know, you just get to kill Karn for free. So
Yeah.
Win-win here, I think, for Bulliard with this attack, thanks to the Exalted from Ignoble Hierarch.
Now you just use the Grist to take care of the Karn.
Yep, and you can just sack the insect token or something. Could also sack the Liberator here and just go get, you know, some big card. But Grist still, like, probably post-combat gonna exile the Karn, I would imagine. But Evolution is the play. See what they go and get.
I imagine scrolls past the Yawgmoth. Is there another 4-drop?
Well, you're the man with the deck list. Why don't you go fishing? I believe you can get 4 or less. So I think you could go get Strangle Guys, could go get Gerald's Messenger. It's going to go ahead and go get the key combo piece in Yawgmoth. If anything weird happens, could just sack a creature to minus something and draw a card. But Gris here going to minus and kill the Karn, and we'll see what Littman does on the following turn.
There's a Singleton Augur of Autumn in Bulliard's deck.
That's a heater.
That could have been a cool one.
Might not be in the deck anymore. That's one that could easily get sided out because these matchups, while they can be grindy, it's more important that you have like interaction like Thoughtseize or the Necromancer early on.
Yeah, I agree. So here we see the Golos, probably going to find the Cataracts.
Yeah, but again, the Gris is going to check it, so Littman's going to have a bevy of threats, but that is ramping him. He's getting up to a hefty amount of mana here and going to be able to start hard casting things like Karn Liberated. And while Littman only had 1 land in hand and 2 on the battlefield when that Necromancer was cast, is able to easily find enough mana to just naturally play all these big powerful spells.
I don't think it was that easy. I think he just hit land at the top, off the top after that.
It makes it look easy.
Yeah, and did well to use that Karn to reduce a lot of Bulliard's resources, and then also find more land drops and set up these big spells. And he's done it in a way where he hasn't been under much pressure, and Bulliard is down to only 3 cards in hand, so not a ton going on. Though I do think I see a Stranglergeist among them, which would be quite good.
All right, looks like we're going to tick up the Grist to make a token, so not going to use it to kill the Golos this turn necessarily.
No fear.
Yeah, maybe going to try to combo off here. Needs the food to start with the Stranglergeist.
I love this attack with the Yawgmoth. It's going to become a 3/5. If Golos wants to block it, Yawgmoth could potentially finish off this Golos.
Yeah, I love this attack too, but at 14 life, I think you just soak the 3 damage. The 2 creatures on board could be sacrificed to kill the Golos, so it's a pretty obvious play. Now, Strangler Guys can come down here. It can be sacked to shrink the Golos a little bit and come back and draw a card, and you can look for something.
Does that
but
pass?
I guess he's passing. He has probably Upkeep, Court of Calling, or maybe Collected Company. Looks like Force of Vigor. Force of Vigor. Packs it in? Interesting. Okay. All right. Well,
Did we not have more stuff to do? I guess it was a Platinum Angel in hand that wasn't very good.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of cards in hand that don't just do very much.
Yeah.
Potentially. So, interesting concession. I'm not sure that the game was necessarily over, but maybe sees the writing on the wall. Maybe he doesn't want to end up with a draw at the end of everything and wants to try to win game 3.
Yeah.
It's really hard to play from behind without your Urza lands in this Urza deck. So, maybe it's a heads-up concession. Who knows? We'll have to see how the rest of the match plays out.
Yeah.
But,
I imagine not much changing here in sideboarding. You know, these are 2 decks that you kind of know what's up with them. So there weren't really any surprises. Nothing much going to change. I don't think there's any play draw considerations. You know, I would say in a lot of decks, Necromancer on the draw is not good enough. But when you have mana creatures and can cast it turn 2 on the draw, then it's going to be good enough. So I would still keep it in because the potential there is really high. And that means if I'm the Littman side playing Tron, I'm actually prioritizing Warping Whale in my open hand so I can answer one of those mana creatures.
For sure. Especially on the play, you can actually tag those mana creatures before they even get online. So turn 2 Necromancer may be off the table if a Warping Whale's in hand.
Yeah.
Looks like we're getting ready here for game number 3. Tron going to be on the play. Can Bulliard and his Golgari Yawgmoth deck find the answers it needs to disrupt this big mana combo deck? This version is a combo finish with Filigree Sages and Chromatic Ori, an interesting build to say the least from Littman. You know, maybe losing Microscintillatus, not really a big deal for Tron decks playing Karn the
We got
Great
more
Creator.
combos, don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, so over under 1.5 on number of mulligans from Littman in this game.
I think Littman's going to go to at least 5.
So you're taking the over?
I'll take the over.
Okay.
All right. But Boliard, you know, the aggressive mulligans from the Yawgmoth deck, that deck needs a lot of food to actually get going. So if they mulligan to look for like specific interaction like Thoughtseize or, you know, it's going to cost them.
We saw Necromantia and Force of Vigor and Outland Liberator. Maybe the Thoughtseizes didn't even come in.
Perhaps. You can't side out too much of your combo pieces, but as long as there's one Strangler Geist and one Yawgmoth, you can still combo
I think
up.
that hand is a lot of mana for Boliard.
Yeah, but maybe it's a lot of mana and like 1 Court of Calling or something, you know.
Oh, it looks like Birds of Paradise, Wall of Roots, couple forests, an Ignoble Hierarch.
You don't have to, you can't see it, but Ross is literally leaning to my right to try to look like as if the hand is in 3 dimensions to see what it is.
And human nature, what do you want from me?
Yeah, that's fair. I do it all the time when I'm playing shooter games. I'm like trying to peek around the rock. Trying to peek around the rock, and my guy's just standing there. I'm like, what are you doing? Just look.
I saw a Young Wolf and what I think is an Eldritch Evolution.
Yep.
But it could have been a Strangler Geist.
All right, we'll see how it goes. Littman here is going down to at least 6. I'm gonna take a peek at this hand and see if it's worth keeping.
You need one more Todd to hit.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be a hit because that hand looked like a bunch of Planeswalkers and not a whole lot of mana. So Littman here, gonna multiply, but I want to stress how inconsequential mulligans can be for these Tron decks. Yeah. With the strength of assembling Tron, getting 7 mana every single time you mulligan, if you find Tron, it essentially undoes every mulligan.
Yeah.
So 7-card hand, you know, potentially a lot worse than even a 4-card hand that has the ability to play Tron on turn 3 or 4.
Don't you think we should have the London Mulligan except for Tron players? If you play Tron.
If you play Tron or Dredge, get out of my tournament.
Yes, you need to you just need to mulligan.
Yeah, regular mulligans for you, sir.
Yeah, you get Paris mulligans.
Yeah.
Not even Vancouver's.
And I think you're just saying things that the majority of viewers just don't even know what you're talking about. You know, what is a Vancouver mulligan?
I used to mark mulligans on my mat with an abbreviation P for Paris.
Wow, nice.
Nobody ever understood what it meant.
All right, Littman here going to keep the 5-card hand, put 2 on bottom, and we're underway here for game number 3, the deciding game, and round number 3 here as both players 2-0.
Mine into map.
Yeah, great start. Turn 1 map with an Urza land. So a second Urza land of any different name allows him for Tron on 3. We'll see if he has it. Easy mode. Easy mode.
But there's a bird. Is there a Necromantia?
Could be.
No, that's a Yawgmoth. I see a black card, buddy.
Wonder if he has Eldritch Evolution for exactly Fulminator Mage. How cool would that be?
That would be cool.
All right. Looks like we're just going to go ramping up. We got an Ignoble Hierarch. We got, oh no, accidentally getting a little too antsy here. Drops Eldritch Evolution on the table, not meaning to. Going to use all his mana and play 4 creatures on the first 2 turns, but let's see what Littman can respond with. Tutoring up that 3rd powerful Tron piece.
Key there that I like from Littman, didn't get ahead of himself and just sack the map immediately just to get it over with. If your opponent does have the Necromancer, you're going to want to use that map to find a different land so you can start making your land drops. So definitely important to wait there. I was watching that to see if we get antsy with his expedition map, but good patience.
Ulamog, the Cecil's Hunger for the turn as the draw, but has 7 mana. Going to start with a Chromatic Sphere cycle, 6 mana potential floating. See if there's a Warm Coil or some Golos or thing. Ancient Stirrings, potentially with 5 floating. We'll see what can be cast here. Warping Well potential.
Well, could hit that Young Wolf.
Yeah, I might rather hit a mana producer like a black mana producer, you know?
You might also want to hit that Wall of Roots because your opponent accidentally showed the
Eldritch Evolution. Yeah, that's true
but
too.
Instead takes some land, trying to get to that Ulamog, it seems like.
Yeah, but does have Karn, the Great Creator, and can still float 1, so has 1 potential mana to play a Pithing Needle on Yawgmoth. And
that sounds good to me.
And if that land was found was an Urza's Tower, that's 10 mana. That is a potential Ulamog next turn. I'm curious if it's 9 or 10 next turn. That's a huge difference.
Yep.
All right,
we didn't get a great look at it. It looks like the rest of Lippin's hand is forest and that Ulamog. So there's an Urza land, a forest, and a Mog on the left side of the table. Bulliard, we know, has a Eldritch Evolution. I think he drew Yawgmoth, and that looks like a second Yawgmoth. So we could go Yawgmoth in. Oh, but the Yawgmoth doesn't work though.
Yeah,
so,
this Pithing Needles here almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Needles on Yawgmoth, so it's a dead card until we deal with that. Looks like we're going to go Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing, my guess is the fresh Young Wolf so that the smaller one can attack. And we'll see if this goes and gets Grist. We'll see what this goes and gets in just a second. I'm going to sack some Birds of Paradise instead, okay. Could go get Outland Liberator since it's 2 or less higher.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, just getting Grist.
Now that can pop off on the card in the Great Crater though and tag it.
We have the Karn covered anyway. You could have Pendelhaven. You Pendelhaven the Young Wolf that can attack, and then use Exalt to get a 3rd power.
Yeah, maybe an unfortunate misstep from Bulliard, but maybe he just wants to use the rest of the mana for the turn.
Yeah, I wonder if there's maybe a cord there, but I would have liked to see Outland Liberator. We had 3, 4, 5, 6 access to 6 mana, so yeah, not quite enough to find the Liberator, activate, and cast Yawgmoth. Too short of that.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think the Pendelhaven, pumping the Young Wolf, and then the Ignoble Heart Exalted trigger could have taken out the Karn without using the Grist minus, and maybe not getting Outland Liberator is going to come back and bite Bulliard, since he does have that Yawgmoth stranded in hand. Another mana source, that's Urza's Tower off the top, and I think Ulamog coming down here going to exile 2 things. And it has Indestructible, so even Grist can't handle it. This is really scary stuff here.
Well, I think I'm taking out the Grist and the Ignoble Hierarch, since that is Bulliard's only black source.
Yeah, with 2 forests and a Pendelhaven on the table, Bulliard can't even cast the Yawgmoth, even if he's able to unlock it with Pithing Needles somehow.
I'm not too concerned about chump blockers.
Yeah, because we will be going for decking. Decides to hit a Young Wolf and a Wall of Roots.
And notably hits the Young Wolf that already had a counter on it.
Maybe he's afraid of actually just dying from damage or something. I don't know.
Taking the Wall of Roots makes sense if you're afraid of another Eldritch Evolution. Take the 2-drop.
Plus on Grist, Dried Arbor the play for the turn.
Yeah, I just don't think, not much of anything going on here for Bulliard. That Karn being a piece of disruption for the combo, Bulliard's hand was kind of all in.
Yeah.
And had a pretty fast combo. I think it would have been fast enough, but Littman with the, turn 3 Tron into Disrupt You, turn 4 Ulamog, pretty strong curve.
Littman here playing a little bit of automatic magic, plays his land before playing the Chromatic Star, cycles, finds Sylvan Scrying, casts it, but can no longer play the land that he finds. Might be unfortunate because that Blast Zone could clean up a lot of those 1-drops, but he's already played a land. Oh, needed to pay 1 for Sylvan Scrying. Just a little bit of bookkeeping. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. Needed to start by tapping. Well, didn't know that they were drawing a Scrying. If you do know you're casting Scrying there, you can just use the tower initially and have the 1 floating, but instead just left the single green.
All right, important to note, finds the Blast Zone, but has already played the land for the turn, and perhaps a little gun shy. The Ulamog can attack, though, so a big advantage here for Littman, I believe. Let's mill 20. Only a couple attacks needed for Ulamog to eat your opponent's whole deck. But we do have chump blockers, We got the Young Wolf going to be able to block, comes back with a counter, can maybe put some pressure down. But even the Grist minus doesn't kill the Ulamog because it's destroy, not exile. And those Eldrazi oftentimes are indestructible. Ulamog specifically. Hard to kill. All right, here comes 20 mil.
19 and 20.
All right. All these going into the exile zone. Ulamog sending them home.
And we're probably about 15-ish cards through the deck to begin with, so 1 more attack is probably good enough. At that point, even if you find a way to get Yawgmoth engine going, you just don't have cards left in your deck to draw.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 cards left at the most, especially because you fetched, you played, a couple of tutor effects, things like that.
So I don't know what this draw step from Bulliard could be, but I think we're going to see a draw into a concession.
We'll see. That Blast Zone also going to be able to clean up some blockers next turn too. So life total under duress as well, even if the decking hits. Gonna look in the sideboard to see if there's any outs.
And you could say here that, yeah, it looks like the thoughts. Oh, it looks like a couple Thoughtseize came in.
Okay.
So Bulliard judging how many cards he can bring out, brings, maxes out that. I think that makes a lot of sense. It might seem weird when you got 4 to only bring 2 in, but it's about how far can I, cut into my core synergies before I've done too much damage and the disruption won't even matter. Bulliard seems to have a pretty good sense of that.
All right, taps 3 for Eldritch Evolution. Let's see what he's going to sack. He's going to sack Ignoble Hierarch and look for a 3-drop. I wonder if there's anything he can find in that small deck now to see if he can potentially come back into this game. There is an Outline Liberator.
Yeah.
I don't think that really does enough. The Pithy Needle on Yawgmoth, but there's no Yawgmoth in play yet.
Yeah, a little late for a Liberator here.
All right, peeling through the deck. I'm not seeing anything that looks very promising. Gonna find a Strangaroo Geist though, so maybe some attacks coming through here.
Is there an overrun we can draw to?
Yeah, we're a little bit far from the Grist Ultimate too because I had the minus. But if that Grist Ultimate had been able to potentially come online a few turns from now, maybe, things could have been different. That maybe missed lethal on the Karn at 3 loyalty and instead using the Grist to kill it. Maybe that was the turning point for this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would have turned it around. I think this just came down to Lippmann's draw matching up pretty well against Boylan's. And that happens sometimes. I think it was a perfectly fine hand for Boylan to keep. You're usually pretty happy to try to goldfish Tron decks because they don't do a lot of interacting early on. And it was pretty close to getting there. Lippmann needed a pretty strong draw here. It was turn 3 Tron with a Karn plus into Needle into turn 4 Ulamog. Really, really strong curve here.
All right, so we're milling 20. I'm curious if there's 20 cards left. I think there's probably around 23 or 24. Yeah. But the Grist Math, the tutors, things like that really shrinks the deck. Oftentimes 2 attacks with Yawgmoth's enough. We're also going to have a chump block. And then Bulliard either next turn is going to have to get rid of the Ulamog somehow, which I don't know if he does.
Good call, Todd. Looks like 4 cards left in Boylan's library there. Bulliard.
Nice.
So yeah, really just not much going on. Can we somehow cobble together to 11 damage? We could use Grist to sack the Strangaroo Geist to get a counter on it effectively. We can use Pendelhaven for an extra point. That's 7. And maybe you drew an Eldritch Evolution and still have the Drolf's Messenger in the deck.
No Strangaroo Geist, maybe. Nope.
Yeah.
Drew Birds of Paradise for the turn. Then he's going to pack it in. Combo Tron, John Lippmann takes it down 2-1 in a really tight match against Golgari Yawgmoth.
If the 4 cards left after that, the Ulamog trigger contained the Drolf's Messenger, and you drew another Eldritch Evolution, you can evolution the Strangaroo Geist into the Drolf's Messenger. They take 2, go to 9. Then you attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the Pendelhaven is 7, and then you use Grist to sack the Drolf's Messenger and do the last 2. So I think there might have been an incredibly small out there if those cards hadn't been exiled from the first trigger. Mm-hmm. And if that's what he was playing to, kudos to Bulliard. He found some tiny fraction of equity left in that game that would have been really difficult for anyone to find.